Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching and listening to Historian Radio's Echoes of the News, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi, and these are today's headlines from the past. On this day, the 20th of October, in 1822, the first edition of the Sunday Times was published in Britain. This is one of the United Kingdom's leading newspapers and one of the most well-read newspapers. Therefore, the first printing of the printing of the first issue of the Sunday Times would be a significant moment in the history of British print media. Continuing on this very day, in 1935, on the 20th of October, Chairman Mao Zedong's long march ended in the Yan'an region of northern China. Stopping one day short of a year, he had led his threatened communist army in a 6,000-mile semicircle to protect them against the onslaught of the Kuomintang nationalist army. This would be a significant moment not just in the history of the Chinese Civil War, but also in the history of the formation of modern communist China. And continuing on the topic of military strategy, in 1944, on the 20th of October, General Douglas MacArthur returned to the Philippines, now the Liberator, fulfilling his promise which he had made whilst retreating the American forces from the Philippines that was being attacked by the Imperial Japanese Army. And on this very day, alongside the liberation of the Philippines, the Allies would capture their first German city, the city of Aachen, on their drive to Berlin. Therefore, this day would go down in history, not just in the history of the Second World War as a whole, but specifically so in the histories of the Pacific and the European theaters. Moving forward, on this very day in 1968, Jackie Kennedy, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, or JFK's widow, would marry Greek tycoon Aristotle Onassis. And on that intriguing note, we now move on to the next segment of our show where we recount the famous births and deaths of famous figures from the 19th and 20th centuries and sometimes earlier. Born on this day, the 20th of October 1632, was Sir Christopher Wren. Sir Christopher Wren, English mathematician, was also a known architect, and he is best remembered for designing and constructing the dome or the arch of St. Paul's Cathedral in London. And unfortunately, on this day in 1890, Richard Burton, explorer and translator of the Arabian Nights, passed away. His contribution in translating the Arabian Nights is still remembered to this day, alongside, of course, his tales of exploration and his journeys. And unfortunately, following him in 1964, the former president of the United States of America, who remained in office during the era of the Great Depression, Herbert Hoover, also passed away. And on that unfortunate note, we conclude today's headlines of the day. You were watching and listening to Historian Radio's Echoes of the News, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi, and these are today's headlines as history first heard them. Good night.